Hi, it's me, Mary, from A Girl, a Book, and a Mom. And I'm here, finally, to tell you about what I read in November and December. So stay tuned. Okay, before I start today, let's just say that due to New Year's Eve, today I will be drinking hot cocoa of the Starbucks double chocolate variety out of my good pal Clark from Salty Sea Dog Designs, and I love him. He is my little bright spot of sunshine. So, I did that and didn't take a drink. Delish. So, let's talk about November. Well, let me start by telling you about my woke book of the month, which I have to admit, after reading book after book about anti-racism and the struggles of people of color and Black people and African Americans, to have anywhere close to the same privileges that I, as a white woman, have, it gets depressing. And while some of the books I've read are tremendous books, like fantastic, and I think everybody should read them, sometimes that's a little much. So this month's book, I did something different. I read this book called The Three Mothers: How the Mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin Shaped a Nation by Malaika Tubbs. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this was a really, really interesting book. On the back cover, it said that it was a celebration of Black motherhood. I thought, oh my God, how cheesy. But it was a celebration of Black motherhood. And I found that the stories of Alberta King and Louise Little and Bettis Baldwin were different. They were completely different. That I found all of them inspirational in how they managed to overcome their struggles and hold on to their children for as long as they could, and to protect their children and to teach their children what was right. And it was really, really good. I highly recommend it. That was 5 stars, and it makes me want to read more because I am woefully missing some history knowledge about the 3 men. So there you go. That's a goal. The next book we'll talk about is the Buzzword Reading Challenge for November, and that was Lost. And so I read The Keeper of Lost Things, about a man who, in struggling to grieve for his ex-fiancée, has collected a whole bunch of items, and the woman who works for him, who is then charged with finding who they all belong to. And it was cute. It was a good book. It wasn't earth-shattering or anything, so it was a 3-star. And that was by Ruth Hogan. And the next book I read was a library book, so I got very few books here to show you. I've been utilizing our public library system more, and because I'm fortunate enough to belong to the Cleveland Public Library, that means that pretty much there's a whole lot of books. I was going to say any book is available, but there's a book I'm listening to right now that was not. But so I've been utilizing the library a lot more. And that book is The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss, and I loved it. It's the story of Mary Jekyll, who then finds out about Diana Hyde, and they discover Jacqueline Frankenstein and Beatrice Rappaccini and Catherine Moreau. And it also involves Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And they're all involved in solving a murder. So it's really just kind of fun and a good time. And it was a book I didn't want to put down, but I couldn't read that fast, so I had to come back to it. So that was a 5-star. The next audiobook that I listened to was Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrad, and I have to say, this was one that I was like, everybody suggests I read this book, and I'm just kind of like over World War II, and but this had no Nazis in it, and even though it was World War II, this focused on the Pacific theater and the Japanese and this Olympic running star. And I really thought I thought because so many people, my mom, my dad, my sister, everybody was like, oh my God, you have to read this. And even one of the history teachers at work was like, oh yeah, I've read that book. And so I was kind of like, oh my God, everybody's read it but me. It's really good. It's very suspenseful, and I have to admit there were some parts that I was just like, oh, I don't want to hear this. But it was really good. It's really the story of survival and trauma and recovering from trauma. It was really good. And that's 5-star. And then the last book, finally a book, my Jane Austen anthology. The last book I read was Sense and Sensibility, but I'm not going to tell you about it because it was the last of my 5-star predictions. And I will, hopefully, but it's on the list, I will be filming a wrap-up of that soon. Okay, so that's November. It was a total of 5 books, and then when November ended, at Thanksgiving, story time, I have a kitchen sink, and the kitchen sink that was put in when my ex-husband and I moved into this house was put in backwards, so that instead of pulling the handles of the sink forward to get the water to go, we had to push. But nobody pushes on handles to get the sink going. So everybody would pull, which then made it that I could move the faucets either way, which meant that it was dripping, which then was a challenge with a $100 water bill. And so at Thanksgiving, when I lost my mind at my sister for just pulling the handles like normal people would do, I decided this has to change. I have to replace my faucet. So Black Friday shopping, to Home Depot, and I got a new faucet, and it's pretty swank, and it's got a sensor. It's pretty swank. I might put some video in here of it. Okay, so as promised, here's my beautiful new sink faucet that I personally installed. You'll notice we've got like the change in flow and a retractable nozzle. I don't know what these are called, but this right here is a sensor. Don't get too close because the water turns on, and look at that, it lights up inside there. You also see right there, there's a soap dispenser. Turn it back off. While I was doing that, it became apparent that all of this plumbing had to be replaced. So yeah, this right here is called the P trap because it looks like a P if you get it on the right angle. And so it was cracked here and dripping. And then when I tried to unscrew here, this whole piece of metal disintegrated. It was really quite spectacular, but it's all fixed now, and I'm feeling really proud of myself and giving the girl a good example. Okay, back to the video. So that was the rest of November, and then December started, And my woke book, I haven't finished yet. It's Dear White Peacemakers by Osheta Moore. And I'm listening to it on audiobook, and I'm so far very much enjoying it. It takes a sort of a very Christian bend to the solving of the racism problems. So that one I'm going to have to keep you updated on. Then, time for a little Clark in our lives. Which I should mention, this is a manatee. It's a husband-wife team in Vancouver. And although my little manatee is named Clark, it's when you adopt your own, you get to name them. But isn't it cute? Oh my gosh, I just love him. And so, anyway, the buzzword challenge of December was a day of the week, a month, a season. So I read The Thursday Murder Club. And I have to say, it doesn't always happen. Okay, it rarely happens that I read a book in one sitting. And I didn't. I didn't read it in one sitting. Spoiler alert. I read it in 2 sittings because life, and I'm a parent. And this hilarious little book, which I think there's a second, which I'll be checking out of the CleveNet system soon. This book is about these 4 people who live in a retirement community, and one of them was a detective, I think, a woman detective, much before women detectives were a thing. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, women wanted to be detectives, but sexism. Yay, I'm not even sure there are that many women detectives anymore. Let me know if I'm wrong. Anyway, so, lady cop and another woman, we don't know what she used to do, but the lady cop, she goes downhill. I think she has dementia or Alzheimer's, but she's pretty much in like the nursing home part of the retirement community. In my head, when I read this book, I thought of Henry Ford Village up in Dearborn, Michigan, which is where my grandma stayed for like 20 years. And maybe longer. Could have been 30. She was there for a long time because she was fine and then didn't die until she was 100. But it's that kind of thing where they all have their own apartments or flats or condo. I don't know what they're called. But it's this woman of mysterious past, and then this woman who's a nurse, and a man who's a psychiatrist, and then another man who is like a political rabble rouser. And it started with the lady cop and her friend, the woman of mysterious past, would go over the lady cop's old cases and try to figure out who did it, reviewing the cold case files. And then a local contractor gets killed and they really get into it, like, whoa, let's solve this murder. And it is a charming story. I enjoyed this story so much. It was the perfect antidote for the pre-Christmas blues that were brought on by being sick for a week and a half. Like, when I say sick, I mean, I was down and out for a week and a half. A fever, down and out. It wasn't COVID. It wasn't the flu, A or B. I had so many swabs stuck up my nose while I was sitting in the front seat of my car because nobody would see me, that it was really quite stunning. And they all came back negative. And so then it was declared a mystery virus, but then they gave me antibiotics because sometimes mystery viruses cause ear infections or sinus infections. And after 4 days of taking antibiotics, I finally broke my fever and my throat started to feel better, which makes me kind of think it was maybe strep throat, but who knows what it is. I'm better. But pretty much all of December, I was laying on the couch watching YouTube videos because I could not process thought it was bad. So this was a nice thing to come out of my I'm so terribly sick moment with. The next book I read was Beautiful Hope, Finding Hope Every Day in a Broken World by Matthew Kelley. And that was 4-star. And when they talk about hope, they mean Catholic hope. I think this was a book that was lent to me, which is one of the categories in the Booklist Queen's 2021 reading challenge, was that we had to have a book borrowed from a friend. And I think she might have gotten it from church, because a lot of the Matthew Kelley books end up like a yearly Christmas gift from church. So that was actually, it was good. It was 4 stars. Some of the essays in there were very encouraging, and some of them were really dry. And like, oh my God, really? I don't want to read about catechism. But most of them were good. So that was a 4-star. And then the last book, which really I started in November and finished in December, was Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And it was far smuttier than I thought it was going to be. So I was kind of like, ooh. But it was good. I didn't like the ending, though. Not at all. But yeah, and there were some parts that I was like, really? And there were other points that I was like, dude, this is a long book. Anyway, so yeah, so not bad for missing a week and a half of December. I managed to get through 3 books. And I probably could have gotten through my woke book, except I'm really enjoying it, and I don't want to rush through because I feel I'll miss some of the message. So, that's what I read in November and December. And in a little bit, I'll be filming the 5-star prediction video, because I finally read all my 5-star predictions. And then I also want to talk to y'all about goals I have for 2022. And also coming down the pipe should be a overview of the 2021 Booklist Queen Reading Challenge, because I did actually accomplish that whole list. So I hope you're doing well, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.